Those of you who got an invite, welcome to Nerd Prom.
No matter where in the world you are, we're all Nerds International. With the hyphen, Nerds International proudly presents.
Within each and every role player lives this homeless character that wants nothing more than to quiet the heartbeat of every living thing that stands in his way. And so today, we celebrate this all too familiar character with...
Well now, would you looky here? It's the Murder Hobo Show.
Welcome to a special edition of the Murder Hobo Show. I am one of your hosts, Gary, aka the Murder Hobo, and I'm here as always with none other than Victor Diaz, the man, the myth, the legend.
Y'all ready for this?
What's going on, Victor? What are we chatting about tonight?
Oh, okay. Tonight, everybody, we're going to be talking about none other than the man himself, Hankerin Ferinale, aka Runehammer. You guys know him as a YouTube all-star. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Hankerin.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. Yeah, looking forward to it. There's a ton to talk about, and the Judgment Day is right around the corner, so you need to grab onto that chain link fence and prepare to have your flesh blown off.
That's fantastic. So Victor and I spend so much time talking about ICRPG when we're supposed to be talking about our Savage Rifts podcast that we decided to add a second show because ICRPG basically it's an up-and-comer. It's new. You just created it. You just invented it. And I don't want to say that I poo-pooed it, but I kind of like... Victor kept putting it in my ear. He kept saying, I was playing ICRPG with this, and I'm a Savage Worlds fanboy. I always have. Well, I'm not going to say I always have, but when I found it from D&D to Savage Worlds, it was like, wow, there's this light system, super cool. There's some things about it that I just love. And just that whole sort of ripping off all of the cover layers of Dungeons and Dragons and the difficulty and all the nonsense and getting down to the essences of Savage Worlds just turned me into a huge fan. So when Victor starts telling me about ICRPG, I'm like, I'm not interested. I got Savage Worlds. I don't need anything else. And I don't know why. I don't know if it came on sale or what happened, but I bought it and I started reading it. And I'm like, holy crap, I really want to play this. So I did, and it's fantastic.
I bribed him, Hankerin. I bribed him. I gave him a blue banana. I twisted his arm. I bought him a few sets. I told him, hey, look at these minis. And I was showing him these index cards, and it took like 5-6 episodes before he finally broke in. He says, I better start buying this stuff and talking about it, or he's not going to shut up about it. And, well, here we are 10 episodes later, and we're still talking about it.
Yeah.
Well, it's a big world, and there's like a zillion RPGs, and like 70% of them are awesome. So it's really hard to, I think, just be like, yeah, sure, I'll dive into something else, even though I'm totally skilled and knowledgeable at this other thing. So I understand everybody's hesitation. I think it makes perfect sense, especially as a weird RPG collector myself. It makes a lot of sense to kind of play hard to get on your RPGs.
Yes. Yeah, it's funny because... As you know, like he said, it took about 5 shows. He kept just ICRPG just was a little blurb, a little buzz in the back of my mind, and then I started looking at it, and it was off the deep end from the top, from the top of the roof into the deep end of the pool, and now I own all your stuff. So,
you know what? I started talking about it with Gary. I think we started recording Savage Drifter about maybe a month after we finished the last episode of The Last Flight of the Red Sword. When we played that last game about a month later, and my kids would tell me, Dad, shut up already. We're going to play the game. We'll all get it. Because I told them we need to play this. This was a blast. And they were watching me and watching the YouTube video and stuff after it was posted or whatever. And I just started talking to Gary about it. And he's like, okay. Yeah, that sounds cool. Okay.
Yeah, it was definitely a strong flagship adventure for us to put out and play right at the beginning there. As far as publicly, we've been playing quite a while in private.
Sure.
But that was really the first public ICRPG game that was really, played in a robust way. And it was a real hoot. When Victor came in, and it was kind of like I was going to go out on a limb and play with some people I didn't know very well, which I just don't really do very often. But as part of like advocating my own game, I was like, I should just go see if it survives in the wilderness. And yeah, that was the first time I really kind of got online and took my pants off and ran down the street, so to speak.
Well, let me tell you, you birthed the beast there, and it went off running on its own, charging through the forest, taking everybody down with it. Let me tell you.
A lot of people play Red Sword. That was really fun to see everybody getting into it.
Yeah, I'm just glad you didn't get arrested running down the street with your pants off.
Oh, they're used to it in my neighborhood now.
Yeah, there's an APB out for him already to tell them, just go ahead, let him go crazy. He'll come back eventually. He won't hurt nobody.
He'll fall asleep.
Fantastic. All right. Let's wrap up this little section here and dive into some stuff, because I got questions.
Because you know I'm all about that.
Hank.
I'm all about that.
Hank.
I'm all about that.
Hank.
Hankerin. Core rule changes. Let's get into this.
Yeah, I got them popped up right here.
Fantastic. I'm going to just let you just take away. What's happening? What are we doing?
All right, here's the deal. So 1.3.5 has been very slow, and the fact that it's been slow to me is like a huge victory. You guys know my mission statement is that I put the game out the first entire year that the game exists. I would consider a beta period. It's not even a game. It just needs enough people playing it that we get data. So in the beginning, the changes were really quick, and then they really kind of ramped off. So here's where I get to give a bunch of credit to this group called the Oathsworn, which are the guys that I not only play with, but that also they get some of the PDFs as I'm working on them to review and to help me check and everything. But then even more sublime is I will just ask them, okay, you guys, we're probably more sessions deep in ICRPG than anyone in the world right now. What are we missing? And go over things. And here's the thing I added. And I don't know about that. And then, well, here's an idea. No, I'm not looking for new ideas. I'm looking for, the gears need to mesh tighter. We don't need to add new machinery. We need a nice, clean machine. And so those guys, thank you, you guys. You guys are awesome. I'm not going to name them because they know who they are. So 1.3.5 is, on the surface, you get the tokens update and stuff that goes along with Ghost Mountain. So that's kind of cool. But then you get rules. All right, now, so here's the guts. Here's Gary's gavel is just, by the way, that's a t-shirt we're going to need, Gary's gavel. Anyway, so the biggest one probably, there's about 9 of them that are significant. But the absolute biggest one, and I think the best one that we have developed, is, if you guys are familiar with Don't Die on Me, Man. So in ICRPG, if you're dying, you need one friend to come over and basically tag you to stop you from dying. So you don't pop up, you just stop counting down. Okay, so this replaces like death saves in 5e and other things, right? We found that it was very hard to ever really get a tremendous imminence because good players always are willing to tag each other, and mobility limiting enemies are not as frequent as I thought they might be. So the tag is always easy, especially if you have blip characters and warp shell and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, we have now put a roll on Don't Die on Me, Man. So you can either use wisdom or intelligence on the target, but you have to use your wits to stabilize an ally. You have to roll for it. So if a person is dying and they have like 2 rounds left, you have 2 tries to roll to say, don't die on me, or they're done. Is wonderful because it takes the death save and it gives it to your friends. And there's something really freaking poetic and wonderful that has completely changed the dynamic of our game, where if you go to dying and you roll low, everyone stops what they're doing. This is a huge problem in all RPGs, is that when someone's dying, no one helps them. They keep trying to kill the enemies instead.
Yeah, because they think killing the enemy is going to save them.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always work out that way.
This problem is as old as time.
Yeah.
And so what we did is we basically, by putting a roll on Don't Die on Me, we made it so much more deadly. So even if you have 4 rounds, that's 4 rolls that someone has to make, or 4 chances for someone to pop you up if you don't make your pop-up roll, which is a natural 20, which is, almost impossible. Yeah. So ever since we made this change, everything has been a ton more fun. So, Gary, what were you going to say?
Let me see if I understand it. So you used to roll a d6 and you had that many rounds for somebody to come over and just say, tag, you're up. Yes. Now, have you eliminated the d6 or you still get the d6? That determines your round. It's done.
Yeah, you still roll for dying. And roll for dying is how long till you die.
Okay, so it's a
which
d6?
I think is still one of the most exciting rolls in the entire game.
Yeah.
Especially if you're fighting a mobility limited battle. So if you're by yourself and your friends cannot get to you and you drop, that dying roll is everything. It is huge because somebody can't just come over there and heal you. It's literally how long do you have to live? How many chances at rolling a nat 20 do you have? And I still think it's a huge, especially if you're fighting in space where the variables are much more wild. You know, like you're in an airlock and they're in another ship and they're in a transport compartment and like it's all crazy. So dying has not changed at all. It's the exact same roll and it still almost always comes in lower than you want it to.
Yeah. So the player when they die roll a d6. That determines how many rounds they have for somebody to come in and tag them. But it's the tag part that's changing now. The tag part now is based on the other
is no
player.
Longer effortless. It is now takes a roll.
Okay, so now my question would be, what I like to do in most situations when I game is just tell me why you think that skill, especially now, like one of the things that I love about it is there's like 6 skills. I don't need, in Savage Worlds, you have fighting, driving, shooting, spellcasting, all that stuff. But really, all of those skills are still linked, and you've severed those links and thrown them away. If you're going to drive a car, roll a dexterity. Or I could say to somebody, what skill do you think applies in this situation? Do you think you can drive this car really well because your intelligence is good? Right? And so that's what that's my question. When I, as the player, roll in to heal this guy, can I say to you, my dexterity, or maybe in my case, it's my intelligence. You know, I took up some bandaging classes, or I got this magazine or something that I read when I was sitting over here. Instead of maybe say like another guy where maybe he would want to use his strength, he's like, I'm going to come in and use my strength to squeeze this open, wound together, and you know what I mean? Yeah, and he's going to hold it while it sort of maybe mends and the blood can congeal and stuff. So he wants to use strength, or another guy. So is that how you, or is there a specific you need to roll like a wisdom?
If you want to negotiate with a player, that would always be a DM's purview. But the way the rule is written, it's either wisdom or intelligence, because the way that we saw this is that you see a person gasping for life and only your wits can help them. You can't squeeze them back to life. You can't jump over them back to life, and so on and so forth. And so we did put that on there. And I like that it's wisdom or intelligence, because it doesn't say if you want to be support, you have to be blah. But it does say if Conan is trying to help you and you're down, that's not so good. Conan doesn't really help very good.
Conan smash.
But if it's Subotai and Subotai comes over there, he's like wisdom and dex, right? And so he has his dex, sure, but he has his wisdom. He's high perception, so to speak. And that also makes him a good ally. But if you have Conan, who's like con and strength, and you go down and you have 2 rounds and he has no bonus on wisdom or intelligence, and it's just the 2 of you, that's not good. And to me, that tells the right story. If you're relying on Conan to close your wounds or to give you CPR, either you're Valeria or you're dead.
That's cool.
That's a little Conan humor there.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. I really like the way that's going to pan out, and it's cool that you've put it on the other person. A lot of times when you're playing 5e, the player, like you said, just sits there dying by themselves. They got to roll the d20. They got 3 chances to go either up or down, and it's garbage. I've seen it. I did Adventures League every Sunday for 3 hours for 4 seasons, years at my gaming store running these games, and it was just the one mechanic that I know what you're saying. Like, just looking back, that's kind of like, meh. Everybody just left them there. You're right. That's cool. All right, what's next? What's the next awesome change?
So. Now they start to get a little less crazy. That's probably the biggest, most like world-shattering one, because if you're running a fun game, you've got 2 to 3 people falling every session. And so I think that rule is going to be the biggest impact. So the rest and for people who know the system, they'll be very interesting. So how do we order these? Well, I'll go from the bottom to the top. So for weapon tags, some people use them, some people don't, but there's only one change that we made, which is the volatile tag. If you have a crit fail on a weapon with a volatile tag, it fucking explodes. Oh, whoops. It explodes.
You can swear, dude. There's no problem.
It's okay.
You can fucking swear all you want. We don't care.
Okay, so this, we found that some of the biggest, gnarliest weapons that do like triple damage, that have these huge explosive rounds and stuff, especially like in Warp Shell, they're so crazy. And then they have this volatile tag, and we were using it maybe to like delay reloading, and it just didn't feel volatile at all. So if you crit fail on any weapon that is called volatile, the damn thing explodes. And explosions in ICRPG are, like 2 or 3 ultimate, so 2 or 3 D12 in near range. So
they're nukes. They're nukes.
It's bloody nuts. So it really gives a gunmonger type character a little bit of pause when he's like, oh yeah, of course I fire my railgun that I modified with that weird thing that we found on that planet with the crystal in it. Yeah, of course I fire that every round.
Yeah,
it gives them a little bit of pause, and that pause doesn't have to be big, but it's a tiny bit of pause. So we did that one. Next one, counterspell. We finally have counterspell in ICRPG.
Oh wow!
So counterspell can be cast on any turn, and then has a mandatory 1d4 burn. So you can use it at any damn moment with a roll, just like all spell casting. But at that moment, you roll 1d4 and you can't cast it again for 1d4 rounds. So you could intercept anything, but you have that mandatory cooldown, which nothing else in ICRPG has. So it took us a while to write that rule with enough clarity. So yes, counterspell, because we've gotten some more advanced spell casting going now in some of our games, and we needed it. Next one, the spell book, which is starting gear. It used to be like +1 int when you're casting or something corny. It was cheesy. And generally, casters were kind of a little bit neglected in the early core. Now, spellbook gives you exploding magic dice. So if you're rolling magic effort and you roll an 8, you roll again. And if you roll an 8, you roll again. And if you roll an 8, you roll again.
Wow.
Infinitely. So exploding dice comes from several games that you guys probably know, like 13th Age and others.
Savage
and
Worlds.
Now we, yep. And now
Savage Worlds.
Oh, by the way, I think it's in Savage Worlds. So now we put it in there, and it's a starter reward that a mage could take to get this feeling of unlimited power. Now it's going to be rare, but as you guys know, in Savage Worlds and in 13th Age, every once in a while, some weird crap happens and eggs balance on their small end, and like you do roll like 60 damage. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's that.
Yeah.
The next one, the blade class got an upgrade. So the weapon gem that the blade class gets, which is kind of like the DPS class, they're +3 on their weapon now, which is much better. The speed quiver, which is the fire again for the fast archers. That's now down to 13 rather than 15. 15 was too hard. You were not firing multiple times often enough.
Question.
And these seem like little math adjustments, but man, are these huge in a game. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a 15 adjusted by your score. So if you put 6 points in dex, you really only had to roll over a 9, or it's a 15.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's adjusted by your dex, right? Okay, that's
so reducing it by 2 points makes it easier for everybody to be able to do that or to use that.
Yes.
So yeah.
And also, I have been playing this Zill who has create device as his main spell, and I make people speed quivers. I make people burst fire units, and so they're not good enough because I make them. I spend like a turn that I could be spending like healing or like recovering or dying. Instead of doing that, I'm making people little gun mods like on the fly. And we realized that it's so cool that I'm doing that because I waste my character's time doing it. But then it's not quite good enough. And we realized, well, shit, this is like a class item. It should be really good. So we buffed some of those items. Let me see. Here's a big one. Learning has been removed from the game. There's no more learning. So you no longer roll rolls and hearts to learn spells. is the bigger one, and some of the items in armor also used to require learning. And everyone I knew has been ignoring it, so I'm just glad it's gone. Because it's like, I find a spell, and now I'm going to try to learn it over the course of the next three turns. Oh, God, that's horrible. So seeing how clutch effort economy really is, like, there's so many cool things to do with your effort that to spend 3 turns to learn a spell is just brutal. So we just removed learning entirely. It's just gone from the game. So I just cleaned it completely out. And I think everybody was secretly ignoring it. So that's a good one. Next, we have the Guardian Starter Award. Okay, you guys, Guardian is the first class I ever made. It's the class I always play. I am a dwarf Guardian in every single game, pretty much. I live and die by the dwarf Guardian. This is the shit. It used to be a shield bonus, and it was crap. It just didn't feel like yes. So we changed it. Now you add your con to your armor.
What? Oh my God. A dwarf with a 19 armor. Oh wow.
The Guardian is now this, just dump everything in con so that you can have high armor and high recovery. And it completely changes the concept of tanking, because what you can do is just be decimated down to 1 hit point, take a recovery action, and get back to your top, and then take it again, and then do it again, and then they try to hit you and miss because your con's so high, get a little hit in, then drop to 1 hit point again, then use recovery time and pop up. It makes the Guardian what we always wanted them to be, which is a sponge, not a deflector, because I don't think being a deflector is nearly as fun as being a sponge. And so that we did that one.
Wow.
And the last one, and maybe the most interesting one, is power armor, and that has been added in Worlds. And I'm starting to think maybe it belongs in core in the speed kills module. But basically the chunks rules for vehicles that are in the core have been expanded into how to build and maintain and use and design power armor.
That's awesome. Oh, I've been waiting for that one.
That's Worlds right now, but we've been talking about it and we're like,
yeah,
I don't know if that should move.
Yeah.
But I think maybe it's a little too late, and maybe the books are about to ship. But power armor to me is the only core rule that lives in Worlds. Yeah, because I think power armor could be used in any game. You know, even fantasy has like golem armor and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and it's basically how to make, human-sized power armor that can be blown apart piece by piece, that contains abilities, and
using the chunks rules that we used in speed kills to build the vehicles. Yeah.
Correct. Yep.
That's awesome. I think we talked about that before when we were talking about how to get BattleTech mech warriors using chunks rules for speeds kills. But I think we had the rules for scale incorrect, or at least we hadn't figured that out yet. But it makes more sense when you use them as power armor because that's a lot smaller.
Correct. Yeah. And so
that's awesome.
The final step here is that I'm going down to the con in Oregon in September. And there'll be more info coming as I go. It's a small con, but we're going to do a big skirmish game with like power armor and hover bikes and mechs and all this shit. And we're going to use all these freaking miniatures from God knows where. And we're going to try to push the chunk system to the absolute breaking point and kind of see what happens in a kind of a con environment, and see if maybe there's a skirmish game that's hiding in the chunk system. Instead of thinking about action dice and then thinking about action economy, you're really thinking about chunk economy. And I'm trying to see if that's going to work. So instead of like an army of guys, you kind of have like a crusader, to speak in like BattleTech terms. And that crusader is maybe 6 chunks.
Sure.
And as the chunks are destroyed, you lose capability, and then you need to pull back and repair those chunks, and you need cover to repair. And I think you guys can probably visualize how that all works. But
wow,
that's most of 1.3.5 right there.
Wow. Fantastic.
That's pretty awesome. I'm looking forward to talking more about chunks and power armor and that kind of stuff. I can't wait, man. That's just awesome.
I think have a good chunk rule and people understanding chunks, and then also have some minis that are big enough to pull some pieces off of them.
Yeah,
I think would really make a fun formula where you could stick the chunks back on. You know, like maybe an old Mazinger toy or an old Voltron toy.
You can do the same thing with
maybe
Gundam
Hordes
models.
with Yep. With an
Yeah,
old Gundam, like Master Grade. You wouldn't want to do Perfect Grade because they're too big.
No,
but
they're too
Master
big.
Grade would be really good.
Yeah,
you can
really
pull the
good
arm
size.
off.
Legos. You can take a Lego minifig, and that's your
Yeah,
model
yeah.
size, and then you can make your
Just
own
like
power
Zero
armor.
Frame, yeah.
Yeah, because I've seen like a bunch of people do that. Zero Frame. I've played that forever, and that's an awesome game. But that would be really easy to cut over to. That is awesome. Oh, I'm so looking forward to that.
Victor, I feel like it's beer and pants run down the street right now.
Hold on a minute. Hold on. I'll be right back.
So
rip them all off.
In Worlds, there's actually an adventure to try to give you a chance to warm up to the power armor rules. It's a warp shell adventure called One Tough Bastard, and it's this basically this rogue Imperium power armor dude who's kind of a sort of an insurgent, and he wants the Imperium to come back, and he's going to start by taking this Zurin world, which are all these little monk guys. They're like Jawas. And he's just basically a giant asshole, and he can fight like at ship level. So he's extremely hard to fight. He has such brutal abilities, but it warms you up to what it feels like to maybe take a group of adventurers and fight heavy duty power armor. And what does that all mean? And is that something you want in your game? And that adventure gives you that tone to maybe discover if that's something you want in your game.
Yeah, we need to call Alex and Matt up, and we need to play that online.
Yeah, One Tough Bastard.
One Tough Bastard. We could put our guys through that. I'd love to put Ezra Harden back through it in my fragment. Start firing away at that power armor.
That adventure is also close to my heart because as a tribute to my early days, that guy's call sign is Skull, which is the call sign of that one of the first characters we've ever made in Rifts when we way back in the day. And and he has like a skull helmet, and the whole, I mean, it's a million cliches, but if you combine them and you believe in it, it's freaking awesome.
Cliches make us the gamers we are, do they not?
Stuff.
Amen. Yeah.
You meet in a tavern. It's cliche, but man, it works and it's fun every time.
There are 4 dwarves gambling for a burst fire unit they found in a crater.
When you're doing character creation, say that you wanted to play a mage, one of the things that I found is that there really isn't much direction given for how much or how many spells and how spells work. Like the spells work part, not so much, but you have your gift, like, you're like, take the spell book gives you +1 to your int. But how would you give your spellcasters inside of ICRPG the spells? I know that everything is loot, and I would just like, they basically, when we played with the one time that we had a spellcaster, he just took Magic Arrow, he took 1 spell, and that was it. And then I know it's up to me to give him the rest, but is there a limit or a number that they should start with?
I mean, in core, no. In core, I completely leave it to the DM and the player to decide. And I think they would probably come to someplace happy, like take your int bonus and you get that many spells. Or when you meet your master and pick that many spells. Whatever. I want to leave that open because I don't think limits make good game design. Yeah. I do think openness makes good game design. That said for core, because core is the welcome book. But Worlds acknowledges that you probably already have core, and in Worlds you have the paths, and among the paths you have the Path of Amber, and the Path of Amber is the sort of mage deep progression path, and this is where you get much more into maybe what people would consider normal character progression, which involves tiers. You have to have 2 rewards from a tier to get a reward from the next tier, and so on and so forth, and it lets you. It's much more familiar for people who know experience and other concepts like that. So there are 5 paths in Worlds to make characters that I think feel more familiar to RPG players. Even though I did all that work and I love the paths, the tier 4 rewards in the paths are absolutely ridiculous. I mean, there's this one called the Crystal of the Stars or whatever. It's kind of like Wish. But you have to earn your way there by specializing, or you can dabble by multi-classing, and so on and so forth. But I love your question, Gary, but at the same time, in my heart, I still believe that the best magician has no predictable path of finding spells. Like, I love Dragon Slayer, the old 80s movie, where he basically has no spells. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. But then toward the end, he suddenly gets lots of them. And I could also see another version being interesting, which is like you have an early character who has like 20 spells that he doesn't even really fully understand. But he's been given this book like by his elder who dissolved into ashes and became a spirit on the wind or something. I could see all those stories mattering. And I really believe when it comes to magic, the more you limit it and the more you make it predictable, the less cool it is. And I think Simbaroom acknowledged that. I think Trudvang acknowledges this. I think GURPS kind of acknowledged it. It let you, your story is how you discover the spells. Spells aren't just like, hey, I'm level 2, I get Swarm. Yeah. Well, how the frick do you know Swarm?
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying.
Like, isn't that an arcane knowledge from like the Elder World? Like, you live in a village.
Yeah, exactly.
I read the Catterley series from R.A. Salvatore, and I loved it. Ivan and Pikal, these druidic friggin', you know the book? And that book just kind of tossed it into my head that if you're going to play a priest, you should know all of the spells. And maybe instead of the priest as opposed to the wizard. If you're playing the priest class in my game, you have access to any spell, and you can cast that spell at any time, but you're going to have a power pool to pull from. Because you only have such a connection at a low level with your god. But you've read all the prayers, you've read, you know the works and all of that stuff. So I've always felt that's the way that it should be played for the priest. Like, you should have access to anything. And like Catterley did in that book, he could call to his gods, he's asking for help, and that god supplied him the magic to create the swarm. But if you're a magic user that doesn't believe in the gods, you're the guy that's looking for that arcane knowledge all the time. You're trying to find the scrolls.
There's the key word.
Yeah, you're trying to find it. You're always in search of it, whereas the priest guy gets it, and he's got that healing magic, that buffing magic, that kind of magic, but the wizard's got that damage magic, and he's always trying to find it in the enchanting and stuff. I've always wanted to throw those kind of ideas out, and I mentioned that somewhere, but your system, and I love the feature of it, is a loot-driven system, and somebody had mentioned that if you take that away from the priests and just give them access to everything, it kind of takes away from the fact that they're playing a game where they're trying to find the loot to buff them up. And I watched you say something about loot, where the reason that you love it and the reason that you did it this way is because loot in this game has the ability to change everything, and it changes time, it changes your attack, it changes the damage. It's the thing that you can manipulate to create situations in your games. So I never really went that way. And now but this is why the spell thing is important to me, that I need to know, because I also get that you've got 6 points at character creation and slots, 10 slots. You've got your carry slots and your equip slots. So I'm looking at that as if you have a minimum of +1 in each one of those, all you're really doing is affecting those 6, and you're rolling a d20. I'm kind of seeing how the math all throws into play now. You've got 6 at startup, and you're going to find 10 pieces of loot that's going to give you an extra 10 points that you essentially throw into your 6 slots trying to make a better character. So if you have spells that take up, say, 3 of those slots, then, I have other questions too. Then
his brain is just firing like a mind a minute.
This is what happens when I read it.
The weasel's just spinning around in there going crazy, burning up the
smoke
belts.
is rising from Isengard.
So when you're giving your spellcasters these spells and stuff like that, I was always under the impression, of the way I like to do it, is there's a difference between carry and equip, and I don't know if you're going to agree with me or that, but if you're carrying something, you've got it to give away. If you've equipped it, it's attuned to your person, and you can no longer give it away.
Correct.
So
absolutely, that's
how I look at those 2 columns. And if you're going to take a spell and find the scroll, I remember you reading something about how somebody had found this idol, and the arcane ruins started falling into their brains, and that's how they sort of learned what they were looking at, this thing, and that's how they got the spell out of this deal. That goes into your equip slot. So when you have a limited number of slots and all of these spells and still all of this equipment, that's why I was asking about how many spells should you start with, because if it's just 1 and both priests and them have to make their way in the world to find this magic, it just is like, do I give the archer guy his bow with his extra shot, and then this guy gets 3 spells, and you're like, he gets 3, I get 1, kind of a thing. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's why I was asking.
I mean, I think it's fun that I don't want to take away from you to decide. Because the fun of you being the DM and deciding in your world, if you're a priest, you actually get all of the whiz powers. There you go.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
I just like that.
You have to find every single one of them. And you know what? There are players who'll be like, oh, that's me. I'm finding my shit. I'm not one of these punks.
Yeah, I don't ask no gods for powers.
Yeah. But if you feel that is imbalanced or whatever, maybe you want to impose a system. Maybe you want to have a thing going on. Whatever. This is all fun that dungeon masters do that I don't want to take away by telling them how. And I think a lot of games do that, is they tell you what to do as the DM, read me and do me, rather than the game saying, hey, you're already a dungeon master. You're a cool, creative weirdo who knows a bunch of stuff. You decide. And I think that's, yes, a little bit challenging, and it might keep me in this sort of, grunge band dimension of RPGs, but I'm okay with that because I think it's the right
Cobain
thing to do in
of
the game.
RPGs here.
Oh, please don't.
No, I hope not.
That might be
a good point, because on all, as a GM, as you gain experience and as you broaden your breadth of games that you've played, the first thing you start doing is taking this rule from this game and this rule from this game and saying, well, I'm going to hack up this game anyways. So Hank's just
especially when players ask you questions about what they can and can't have. That is the DM's moment, because no rule can answer those questions. It's between people. You know what that person is. If they're a power monger, you need to give them a different answer. Mm-hmm. If they're humble and beautiful, you need to give them a different answer.
Right.
No book can ever know the answer to a question between two people. It needs to fit the moment, And I think, yes, is it a little challenging because it isn't written? Yeah, sorry about that. But I believe that GMs out there are dying for this flag that I want to hand them.
Yeah, write it however you want to. That's the beauty of role-playing games in a nutshell right there. The decisions that you make between the game master who controls the worlds and the gods that are giving you the decisions to make, which are your players, those conversations you have are forming these worlds that no one else on the planet will ever play on. They'll be similar. They'll be same colors, maybe the same shades of evil and good, and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, your game with those 5 guys will never be the same with anybody else, no matter how hard you try, because you're making those agreements as you go. And when you have that freedom to make those changes and make up why arcane magic and priestly magic are 2 totally different things. In other worlds, the arcane guys get 10 spells in a spell book, and the priests get 10 prayers in a prayer book, and they get the same thing. I've literally been playing at a convention, and in one game over, that's how they do it. But then you come over here, and it's Pathfinder and D&D. And over here, well, all the gods, they give you all the spells when you're a wizard or when you're a cleric, but the wizard gets 1 spell, and he has to go find them.
It gets worse in Worlds, which there's a class in Worlds called the Mistress. And I know it's gender specific, and I don't care. Sorry. But she is sort of this sort of ghost paint harlot that would run a town in this supernatural Wild West setting. And the whole class is basically built around creating spells. That's what they do. They create spells with rolls. Now, what the hell am I supposed to do with that? What spells am I creating? I don't know.
Exactly.
And no one who's a sort of a beginner or looking for familiar ground is going to be interested in this. But I know from my own experience, there are not only GMs, but also players who just die for this stuff.
Yep.
Where I'm going to make a spell that will, turn an ace of spades into a tiny little spider. It's like, what? You want that to be a spell? Oh, yeah, it's critical for my character. All right. I mean, okay.
Knock yourself out.
That's kind of weird. I'm not sure what you're going to do with that. And it's like, oh, I need that. And so we actually started discovering some of this spell creation in Ghost Mountain, and it's a very weird, unexplored place. And that to me was just like, oh, man, I love that weird place. That nothing makes sense when you're talking about creating spells with a roll. What the hell are you talking about? I can make a spell? Well, as long as you make the roll. I mean, target's 14. What's the spell? And then it's like, well, what do you mean? Well, you have to name it and tell me what it is if you want to create it. Oh, well, I don't know what it's going to be. Okay, well, next turn.
Next turn. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. Next turn. Speaking about Ghost Mountain and creating spells, how are we going to use the deck of cards in Ghost Mountain? Because I know you went over some of that with the gambler and with the gunfighter, that kind of stuff. What kind of stuff do you have in there? Because that's
There's
totally
two main ways. The first is the gambler. So the gambler can substitute a deck of 52 for his D20.
Right.
And he can do it in two ways. One way is he can roll it as normal. Another way is that he can go against the DM.
Yeah.
So he's not I don't want to beat the target with my deck. I want to beat you.
Yeah. It's literally
and the DM's like, yeah. So the DM has to draw, and the gambler can draw. The other big way that you do it is the measure, which the measure is the sort of nickname for at a large milestone or a sort of epic moment in your Ghost Mountain campaign. The devil actually like comes to your group, to your party, like sort of in their dreams or in this kind of a spirit world. It's hard to tell if it's real or not, but the devil basically arrives, and he's kind of like this, well, he's whatever you want him to be. You know, he's a guy in a black hat, and he walks up and he wants to play cards, and the only currency that he'll bet to play is souls. And when you're playing Ghost Mountain at different points, you can earn souls, and you can play them, you can refuse, you can fold, you can walk away, whatever, but he wants to play you for your souls. And actually, you can save souls that way. And what you do is you draw face cards, and it's real simple. It's kind of like a simple version of war. But the interesting version isn't the cards, or the interesting part isn't the cards. The interesting part is the betting of souls. And sometimes the devil will already have a damned soul that your heroes want or need. Like maybe one of your heroes fell and they're damned, and you want to get that soul back, and you need to play with the devil to get it. And that's where the 52 cards come in. So you play 3 cards at a time, face down, you bet souls, and whoever has the most face cards wins. And if you tie, nobody's wins, and you play again. It's that simple.
It's pretty much a deal with the devil, literally.
Oh, absolutely. And he never loses.
That's sick.
Only you lose. It's just a matter of how bad you lose.
Much, yeah.
But sometimes you get in a desperate situation where it's the only way for this, that, or the other goal. And this is the challenge that I'm giving to the game masters who want to run Ghost Mountain, is how to play this fun, how to mess with people this way. So you can take a noble NPC. This is the easiest way. One of the best people on the mountain, one of the people whose soul hasn't been tainted, and they get either killed or dragged into hell by a demon, or some terrible fate befalls them. Okay, so some story happens. At a big turning point, they meet the devil, and he says, hey, remember that girl from the village? And they're just like, who is this guy? He's just like, well, I have many names. What if you could have her back? And now we have a card game. And this is the challenge I want to give to game masters, is how to fuck with the players. Right.
That's freaking awesome. I want more tools like that. Lots more tools like that.
They'll bet a whole bunch of people that they don't know.
Sure.
They're eternal souls to get this one, or vice versa. They'll think they're going to trick the devil and win a bunch of souls so they can set him free, but then actually he draws like 3 kings and stuff.
Oh, you know that's going to happen.
The whole thing's sassy. So the way it's written in the book is that if you ever bet it all, is the phrase, with the devil, and you lose, it's actually the end of your campaign. It's the end of Ghost Mountain. And the devil pulls the mountain back down, and basically it's the end. Everyone is damned.
I absolutely love the way you're able to be fearless when it comes to killing characters. I have talked about that for years, and people have told me you're too hard on us. You kill us too often, but it wasn't until it started to make sense when you started to talk about putting the characters under pressure, damaging them, hurting them, making them feel that sense of urgency where, like, this is only temporary. This is good.
Your life matters. You got to hold on to it tight.
Exactly. It's not until I started seeing the way you were producing that in a game that I started to realize how much more weight that should have at the table. Ever since then, every single game I play is deadly. Every single game. There's not one person going down. Every single game, I'm doing something wrong. It's like I gave deaths. Like, how well did I do? 5 people died. How many players? 5 people. Did they all die at once? No, but they all died. That's
Yeah,
all.
there you go. There you go. Yeah.
But now when the players come to the table, they come to the table, they're at the edge of their seats, they got their dice, and they're like, all right, because they know any single die roll could be the last one for that character. So they invest the time and energy into their characters, and it's making that much better of a game at the game table. Absolutely love that concept. That is great. I
Yeah,
can't
in
wait.
Ghost Mountain, it's so much worse. Like dying in Ghost Mountain is horrible. Also, if you're not anointed or buried deep enough, you come back as a muerto, and you join the legions of the muertos. These are just dead people that are wandering around, and they can't be killed with guns, and they're nasty buggers, and they can't heal with any non-magical means, so they just slowly grind down, and there's a lot of them. And
You know what?
you don't want to be those guys.
Growing up in the Southwest, all this stuff is just ringing true to all the stories and things I've ever heard, and
Yep.
all the myths and legends. And I'm a big fan of Deadlands. I've played Deadlands since the original book, and Shane Hensley, the guy who designed the game, lives like literally 30 minutes that north of me. Absolutely love the work, and I've told him a million times, and I've never seen anyone put a twist on Deadlands, because it's hard, right? It's not. It's an original concept that put the zombies and the demons.
It nails it pretty hard.
It does it pretty well, but I'm telling you what, I've never been this excited to play a Wild West or a Weird West game until I started reading about your Ghost Mountain. And now all I want to do is put Viking Death Squad in Ghost Mountain. That's what I want.
Like they come in from orbit.
Exactly. Come in from orbit and they land, but instead of Viking helmets and Viking powers, they have swords still, but they look like gunmen in black, and it would be awesome. It would be awesome.
The children
telling
of
you.
Azathoth.
I want to put Viking Death Squad in every single world. I want to put Viking Death Squad in Warp Shell. I want to put them in Alfheim. I want to put them in Dark Sun. I want to put them in Ritz. I want to put them in Ghost Mountain. I think that's probably one of the most epic adventure, one-hit wonder kind of things that you can just go crazy. And
they're born doomed.
Oh, yeah. That's just awesome, because the whole point of the game is for them to die. And
You're born to die. You're a tool, man. You're a weapon.
When they start out the game, they're like, oh my God, I have like 5 milestones and a weapon that does ultimate damage, and I can shoot plasma guns out of my eyes and just crazy powers. And, you're doing like 30, 40 points of damage, because I played Viking Death Squad like 3 or 4 times already with a few people. And that's, for me, that's the epitome that's the game that is ICRPG, because that changes people's, you can see in their eyes when they play the game, they're like, what am I going to do? When you get that one player to nominate to play him, and you know who him is. I don't want to give it up to everybody, but when you get that one player, he's like, "What can I do?" Well, anything. What do you mean?
What do you think you can do?
I feel like Victor's going to need to smoke a bowl after this, because he's not going to get to sleep. He's going to be laying there all night.
Absolutely love the whole
guitar solos.
I got some questions. Why is the core book printed 120 pages? But the PDF's 190 something. You must get asked this question a lot.
Because when the book started, it was printed in hard copy. And then right away, we started getting the updates and expansions. And if I were to reconfigure and republish the hard copy each time we did expansions there in those first 5 months, it would incur 2 weeks where no one could even buy it. And also, everyone who had bought it early would be screwed. And I do not see that as fair at all. So everyone who got the PDF is updated live for free for life. But if you bought the book and then the book is outdated 3 weeks later, I'd have to say, screw you, Runehammer. That is not cool. So what I decided to do is tell everybody, hey, the first year is basically the beta on the hard copy. And at the end, we're going to have second edition, and that's going to be a much more stable, much more play-tested, much more full book that you can count on not changing or falling behind for quite some time. But yeah, I mean, I think that would have been horrible, is 2 months in to update the hard copy, and then everyone who supported me early is kind of screwed. That's pretty crummy to me.
Are you telling us that September, October of this year, we'll see version 2 of Core?
It'll be before that.
Really?
And also when second edition, because we're running out of changes. We're running out of things that people really want to put into the core book. At the beginning, it was very fast. We needed adventures. We needed to see vehicles. We needed to see really key things. And now I get maybe one thing I think is important every 2 to 3 weeks rather than every 2 to 3 hours.
That means we're not posting enough, Gary. We need everyone to send your messages to
The plan is to do second edition. It's a more like about a 200-page book, and then it's also there might be I'm not sure yet if I really want to commit to it, but there might be like a second edition sort of premium that's on Amazon that includes Worlds.
Oh yeah.
So you'd have a like large hardback book that's on Amazon, which is a huge pain in the ass that has very little flexibility, unlike drive-through, but that would be both books in one for a higher price, where you could really have your big motherload book like a lot of the other larger publishers do. But you guys, I'm one guy, so I have to pace myself to make sure I get quality product.
No, we get it. We don't want to kill Hankerin before it's time.
Speak for yourself, man. Get writing, bitch. I need more material.
I'm going to let you go. Go ahead and write 100 words tonight before you go to bed tonight.
You call that a backflip?
So does that mean Worlds is going to stay the way it is for a while? You're not going to add any more worlds? You're not going to work on like speed kills or any other stuff?
Vetted and way more read tested and proofread than Core ever was. Worlds is very, very tight as far as its completion and its error checking, and it's much more tight. Core, I needed to just get it out there. I needed to see if the world cared about the game. But Worlds is different. Worlds is much more of a poetic statement, and so there's also a lot less tuning to do. With rules, you do need to tune them because people play the damn game. It's real. You have to face it.
Hell out of that. Yep.
But with Worlds, it's source, and this is probably what Rifts, got them so much momentum. When you're not doing Core and you're doing source, you can just run wild and you really don't need to revise it.
You can print 80 books and not have to worry about the original. Exactly.
Yeah, because the story about the tentacle queen or whatever, the giant eye, is going to hold for all time. It doesn't really need to be revised.
So does that mean that you have more worlds in that crazy mind of yours?
Not after this.
Really?
I am so emptied out. I mean, there are 36 adventures for Warp Shell. There are 16 kingdoms for Alfheim, and each one of them has almost everything that you would need, including the dungeons in those kingdoms, everything. There is an entire campaign for Ghost Mountain is in the book. And like putting all that in one book and the character stuff, and I'm empty. That's why I'm going to be a player for like a year. It's every clever DM idea I think I had stacked up for the past maybe 10 years that I didn't use.
Oh
I just went ahead and gave it to everybody and just said, hey guys, here's everything I have.
So depending on when this podcast goes to print, that's going to be $159.95 on Drive-Thru RPG. I mean, it's probably worth that. It's probably worth.
It's all the way down to this adventure I've been wanting to run for a long time called Fishing Trip, which is you basically pull your spaceship up for R&R on a planet, and this is inspired by like 14 different Star Trek episodes. But basically, you go down for R&R, and it's all perfect and wonderful. And it turns out that the planet is like a lonely AI, and it does not want anyone to leave because it has friends now, and they want to fish here, and they want to live here, and it creates all these different NPCs to like marry you and like make a cabin and like look at this perfect little river where you can go rafting for the rest of time. It
creates the perfect world, so you never want to leave.
And it disables the spaceships, and it builds these force fields, and it starts actively becoming like capricious, and it like starts losing its temper and shit.
Like Hal.
But it's a planet AI, and I've been dreaming about that adventure for a long time, and I finally quit being secret about it, and I just put it in the damn book, and that's one of the 36 Warp Shell adventures.
I thought you were talking about maybe taking a vacation in real life. You wanted to go fishing. Like it sort of sounded like that's what you were building up to. I'm writing this adventure that was code word for I'm going fishing. And I'm like, man, I can think of
fishing trip.
Fishing trip, right?
Yeah.
I keep trying to ask this question. Your success on drive-through. You've brought it up a couple of times. You've brought drive-through up a couple of times, but shit happened with your book.
I'm still in the top 10 for small press. So I was in the best-selling top 10 for 8 months or so. Yeah. Still in the top 10 for small press. I'm not sure how. I've achieved comparable success to Zweihander, which is the number 4 top seller on drive-through of all time.
Yeah.
So I'm competing with them, and as you guys have probably noticed on the site that I'm always right next to Zweihander. I would like to think that those audiences cross over a little bit. And I have almost no explanation for it because I just don't do marketing. I really have never been a believer that marketing is a way to create real depth in readership. I think it just gets you sort of shallow buys. But I think if you don't market and people find your way or find their way to your product, I think that they're sticky people. They are really there because they want to be. So exactly how that keeps going, I'm not quite sure. It still is like my whole grocery bill. It's I don't know. It's staggering to me. It makes no sense. I thought maybe I would be in the top 10 at the biggest hope of my ambition for like a month or so, and I just don't get it. I'm proud of what I did. Don't get me wrong, but how people are finding out about it and learning, I'm not quite sure.
It's word of mouth.
I just don't know.
Victor, he kept talking about it. He made that one statement that just was dumbfounding to me. Like, I'm switching from Savage Worlds to ICRPG because I just think it's that good. That struck a chord, and I'm like, I'm going to go check this out. Like, what's he talking about? And then I read it, and I'm like, holy shit, man, this book is so good, and there's so many good nuggets in here that I want to share it with all of my friends. And I bought actually 2 copies, and I took one to my gaming store because the guy there is an old school AD&D 2nd edition. It's his favorite.
He loved this.
And that's what I was thinking, right? So I'm like, this is so good, I'm buying another copy, and I gave it to him. Now, he owns a gaming store in Abbotsford, and as soon as he starts sitting down to read this thing, he's like, oh, wow, I'm going to try and get some of this stuff into my gaming store. He's telling people about it, I'm telling people about it, and it just spreads because it's delicious. It's like, again, you're the guy in the prison yard that figured out how to make a toothbrush into a friggin' lockpick, and everybody wants to buy one because you're the only one that knows how to make the stupid things.
Yep, that'll be 2 cases of 6. 2 cases.
We're going to wrap this up.
I would like to think this is where things are going. I would like to think that the concept of corporations focus testing their products is totally welcome and awesome. I mean, I can't pretend like it's not cool. It is great. But I do think we're entering a time where it's more possible to be kind of like a band as a publisher.
Yeah.
And bands don't need $20 million a year to operate.
Not anymore.
You know, and they just need, I don't know what, maybe 50 grand to live a semi-decent life and pay your bills. And that is accomplishable when people kind of show up and continue to show up and tell their friends about it and stuff. And I would like to dream that publishing is no longer out of reach for the band style mentality. That TSR or WotC or, Games Workshop or White Wolf, that they no longer can hold it by sheer logistics. And I would really like to believe that's true. So I don't think that what I did is somehow unique. I do think that maybe it's a sign that this can start to happen more. And just a person focusing on quality can maybe matter at a scale that's relevant for one person. Now, if WotC were to release ICRPG, it would be a complete disaster. It wouldn't even be worth the time to pay rent on my cubicle. You see what I mean? But I think there's something else happening. There's a new tide that's rising, and it's because these robots that you can give instructions to order on demand rather than stockpiling. Right. That to me is the fundamental break. One of the people I drank the most with at Gen Con was Chris Tang from Drive-Thru, who is a goddamn awesome dude. And we drank till the sun come up, man. We just couldn't have enough fun. Also, Chuck and Rose were with us, and that was a big night of really fun drinking because I was kind of picking his brain about what this future really is, and it's about robots. It's like robots are doing this shit. And then I was just like, oh my god, how do we program the robots?
Get me in. I
want the robots to do my bidding.
That's awesome. It's the truth though, because NWA had the same idea when they decided to make a recording contract without a studio, without a manager, without a corporate label to push them along.
We'll sell our little things, and it won't be much to them, but it'll be much to us.
When you have a great product like that, it sells itself. And Drive-Thru just reflects what we already know, right? What we already know at the table because we've played it, we've seen it, we've heard it. Yeah, and I guarantee you, just by what you've told us, Hank, Worlds is going to blow Core out of the water. It's going to beat Core. It's going to pass Core. because I'm buying 5 copies of Core after I buy 5 copies of Worlds, and I'm going to take them back to my gaming group, and I'm going to tell them, look, guys, I'm tired of preaching it. You guys are going to sit down for 4 hours and play the freaking game.
We're playing Warp Shell.
I'm going to give you the rules. We're going to play Last Flight of the Red Sword because that's the one that hooked me, and I'm going to hook you, and we're never going to play anything else again. We're just
you guys,
they're hell at Hankerin to get us
torturing giant arthropods to make warp shells. This is messed up. We have to play this adventure right now.
Exactly. No, yeah, whatever you do, man, keep doing what you're doing. I want to see more Beneath the Door. I want to see speed kills, and I want to see a whole campaign of it. I have a long laundry list of wish stuff that I want to do, and stuff that I want to do, and
you got to do it.
Exactly, I got to do it. But you're an inspiration, man. Just as a GM, as a player, it's just fun to play in your brain. I absolutely love it.
Worlds. How many pages are we talking?
Yeah, how big?
It's a perfect sister book to Core, so it's 123 pages.
Nice.
Wow.
If it sits next to your early edition of Core, they're like little twins.
Yeah, that's cool. So you'll be able to combine them together, no problem, in about a couple of months or something like that, when everything fleshes out, and then I'll have I'll have the 3rd book in my ICRPG series.
Yeah. Yes. So the sort of the bigger combined book, I wanted to make something different, so that if you're collecting, it'll sort of look different on the shelf, and it'll probably be hard copy only, or hardback only. I mean, and stuff like that. So. We'll see if we can keep going. I honestly never thought I would get this far. So like my dry erase board only goes so far in its corporate planning.
I've got a bunch more stuff for you. I know it's getting late, and we've been at this for a while, but I got just a couple more things.
Okay, let's get it.
I love how you've separated shit into its piles. Like you've got your Alfheim pile and you've got your Warp Shell pile. If I want to play my D&D, like sometimes you know how some dudes just can get OCD without having OCD, but like I don't have OCD even though I sound like I do, but I like all of my stuff on Tabletop that I put inside Tabletop Simulator, I had to take it off because I found a better way of storing my stuff, which is on Imgur, and I have folders for everything, so it's easy for me to find stuff. I like that. So I've got my cool fantasy setting in ICRPG. I've got my cool futuristic setting. I like that there's artwork for both of them. You've supported both of them. They have immense, just cool stuff inside them, which is fantastic. Now here's where I'm going with this. Have you read my favorite book, my favorite setting, 50 Fathoms?
I don't know what that is.
Okay, that's cool.
I'm looking it up.
50 Fathoms is the ultimate pirate game, in my opinion. It's a world that's drowning. It's a drowning world where there's portals that are open. The oceans are being sucked in, but it's very high fantasy. You have flying birds that are like seagull people. You have a walrus guy called the Grail that carries around a cannonball on a chain. There's piranha, cool. Like the Kihana are like a piranha people. You've got like a dolphin people, and there's like an underworld, but it's still, there's an island to the south called Korth Ta where these cavemen or these big red men are like these tribal people and stuff, and there's a whole story to this world, this sunken world, and it's still rising and stuff. Like there's crabmen that you can play. You can play a kraken, which is like the squid-faced guy and stuff. It's fantastic.
I'm definitely going to be the crab guy. There's not even a question. There is not even a question. I'm the crab guy.
He has telescopic eyeballs, a hard shell and stuff, and he's got claws.
Damn right he does.
This is why the reason I brought it up is because this is your next project, bro. I would like ICRPG pirates.
It's not an easy genre to hit because for me, a lot of it is trodden, like others. But if I did do it, I know the closest clue you could have to what it would feel like is the story I did, A Letter for Agnes. That story to me would capture the feel of my pirate world. So it would not be a bawdy world. It would be a much more delicate sort of world, a much more deadly world. But yeah, Letter to Agnes is such to me a tangible nautical story of what it would really be like. I don't know if I have cracked that genre quite yet. I've done a couple pirate projects in my career, They
That's
are
cool.
very difficult, I think.
We can
They're
put it
very
on the
tough.
shelf. Just put it on your dry erase board.
So 2020, we will look forward to seeing that book.
It's
You're
just
just saying, frickin' do it.
it's fuel for your imagination.
Yeah, just put that on the back burner for the moment. Let that simmer for a little bit. Just don't burn the pot. I think there's something there.
There's a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
do
pirate.
think there's work
The
to
way
do
you
because
twist things. I mean, look at Ghost
it's a
Mountain.
very serious genre in a way. It's a very deep
It can be.
historical
Yeah.
genre with a lot of context and flavor to it. And it's like, I don't want to be klutzy with it. So
Do you want to twist it? Do you want to twist it like you did Ghost Mountain?
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Right.
I just need one story that starts it. And, all of Ghost Mountain all comes down to one story. It's this kid named Hat Martins, and he's looking for his family. I mean, that is the story of Ghost Mountain. And I would need to find that human root to a so-called pirate world. Because I think even using the word pirate automatically I lose interest. So I would need to put it in a place that word would be carefully used, if ever.
A good example of how they twist up pirate worlds is that 50 Fathoms book, Charybdis, the witch that curses the world and creates the whirlpools that suck down the ocean, and how all the different creatures and how they twist it
That's
up.
a Greek creature, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great little twist on a story, and I think is what really makes a pirate game a little different. Very, very good writing when they put that together. But I would be really interested to see how you're going to twist that genre up, because it is tough. It's just like the Wild West. How do you something that's been written on for hundreds of, for 100 years at least, and there's natural heroes and natural villains that are out in the real world that have history books written about them, whole library shelves full of them. Well, how are you going to do that with pirates? Because it's pretty much the same thing, right? The same kind of genre. So I'd love to see it. I would love to see it.
I think in that case, I know that stuff so well, just from life, that it actually came very naturally to write Ghost Mountain, especially with Azael the Butcher and all this kind of demonic component that happens there. It seems a little crazy now that I look back on it, but when I was writing it, it just made perfect sense. It's just like,
we like crazy.
Of course, everyone's soul is hanging in the balance, and of course, the Christian God is secretly the villain of the story, and of course, I mean, duh. But now that I look back on it, I was like, man, holy crap. I was like writing my symphony backwards like Bach or something. Like, what was I doing?
That was his opus.
I think it makes a really fun story, especially the way that our group played through it. It was so ridiculous and unpredictable and just like, what the hell? What is the hunger? What is this? It's all crazy. And yeah.
The stuff that you've written so far, like your Alfheim and your Warp Shell, do you feel like those were the first ones that had to come out because your ICRPG is very Dungeons and Dragons based, which I think also speaks to its success. Dungeons and Dragons over 5 editions has become this gigantic inflated puffer fish kind of turd ball, and you've scraped off the outer shell, boiled it down to its essence, and now you have this shining gem of an actual D&D game that feels very D&D-ish. So do you feel like you had to write Alfheim, the fantasy, and Warp Shell, the sci-fi, so that you could get those out first, because they seem to be the most prominent genres? It's either space future stuff or it's old fantasy. You know what I mean? Like when I mention pirates, you're like, nah, which is cool, but do it. I'm gonna find out where you live. What? That said, you can answer that with
it's just you're just speaking to where I play. I play in Alfheim. I didn't make Alfheim because I thought it would be cool. That's our campaign world for the last long time, and my novel world as well. I never intended it to be like a cool thing. That just became our world, and that's a little easier because we never wanted to play in Faerun and be like that. As for Warp Shell, that also is where we've always played. I mean, one of the first things we really played that was my own was a game called Living Weapon, which was a sort of a mod off of Rifts and GURPS that used 3d6, but we were sort of all power armor, and you could build yourself. Each session, at the beginning of the session, you could reconfigure your armor. So it's almost like you could roll your character again each session, but with XP. And that was an Asimovian type setting, meaning it wasn't gritty sci-fi. It was big sci-fi. It was multiple timelines. It was hollow asteroids. It was, creatures as big as solar systems. It was ships that can fold space and time. And what do you do with that? And, all inspired a lot by Larry Niven and Asimov and Foundation and Ringworld and Hammer of the Gods and Mote and God's Eye and all this kind of stuff. And these massive sci-fi. And that's something I've been doing, I don't know, since like 6th grade. So I guess when I was doing core, I had to make sure I had what I needed. I totally needed mecha. I needed Jawa guys. I totally needed a stretchy guy. I had to have a weird stretchy guy. If I didn't have that, the game is crap. It's like, so I found myself in these traps where I was like, I have to have a dwarf tank. I have to have a magician with a weird crystal arm. Like, I gotta have these things or I've kind of screwed up. And then I do think that Ghost Mountain was something that arose out of those two. And especially because a few fans on Google Plus were like, dude, you should totally, what would you do with the West? And I was like, Azael the Butcher. Yes, I know exactly what to do.
And a firestorm later, we have Worlds Part 3, Ghost Mountain.
And then all we needed was God to tear the mountain off of Earth, and like the story began.
So is that sort of the gist with your settings then? Like Farron is like it's like a world that's transversed generations, like thousands of years they have storylines for, but yours are more just, here's Alfheim, here's this island, here's this pocket, here's some places and stuff like that, here's my fantasy. It doesn't have that bigger kind of, so that to me, like when I see Ghost Mountain, I was expecting a Weird West setting, but it's really not a setting. It's more of a here's a playground to play in kind of a thing, and that's what Alfheim is. It's literally
one mountain. I mean, it's a small space. It's about 200 miles across, and it has been torn off the earth, and it's in some kind of purgatory, and that is the entire space. And even more specifically, if you follow the campaign in the book, it is a single campaign. I mean, it is a series of things that can be changed in different ways by players, but it's hyper specific compared to like Alfheim.
But in the end, everyone's going to play to the same or almost the same ending.
They did things
50 Fathoms is written the same way. 50 Fathoms is written in this happens, then this happens, then this happens, and then you finally all get to this. What happens in between is up to you and your players, but in the end, you're going to start here and you're going to end up pretty much around here too. And
and what the sequence is and who goes where and why and how it all plays. That's all up to players. But it's inevitable that blah, 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 and it's inevitable that blah, 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 because Lucifer and God are actually vying for the mountain, and you are part of that struggle, and it's going to play out. I mean, whereas in Alfheim, it's kind of like you could go anywhere you want, but even Alfheim compared to Faerun is a tiny, very short-lived place. I mean, all of Alfheim's history is, maybe 2,000 years, and it's mostly just snake men that aren't around. It's very small. Even in the novels, it's a really short history.
All of your adventures and all of your worlds are like the campfire that starts the forest fire to me.
Absolutely. And I really believe one character or two characters can make 5 years of gameplay.
Sure.
It's not the world that makes it interesting. It's you falling in love and falling out of love and getting hurt and finding that one sword that matters and then losing it. And then a friend that believes that you're okay without the sword. That's the story.
When you look at the world of Farron, you have your regular fantasy stuff. Then they have like the deserts to the south. They have the barbarians to the north. But it's all part of one world. And I feel like you've just ripped that center section out and said, here's enough fantasy stuff. You could, and 50 Fathoms speaks to me this way too. I could run any pirate adventure inside of 50 Fathoms because there's a place and a location for it. But you've done that with Alfheim. It's an island where there's enough blank space that you can say this adventure takes place here. Warp Shell, it's in space, and I love how you premised it with you guys are all part of this spaceship, and it just comes out of hyperspace at a location where there's peril.
Yeah, you don't get to navigate it.
That's super cool. Plus, it's space. You never
even know where the frick you're going or why, and that's what you have to find out.
And at the end of the game, when the Warp Shell disappears out into space again, you don't have a choice of where you're going or when you're going. It's going.
Yeah, you just want to go
Better
home.
be on it. Yeah, better hope you're on it.
Yeah,
you can't.
And so Ghost Shell, now you've got your Western. So now that you're this successful RPG guy and people are looking at you and they're like, what are you going to do next is the question. What do you want to do next? If pirates isn't your bag, what is your bag? Is there a genre? Is there something?
As far as setting, there is one that was going to be part of it all that I didn't feel I finished. And so I am cooking it. It's called Blood and Snow, and it's like a 10,000 BC type setting. It's Paleo Man, basically, is the short version of it. But it's actually kind of centers around these concepts of this anchor stone, which is it's kind of an Ice Age world. It's like a world of mammoths and saber-tooths and primitive magic and warriors and stuff. But I was inspired a little bit by Land of the Lost, and there is this alien race that has these anchor stones, and they use them to actually sort of keep the cosmos from spreading, because when the cosmos spreads, it gets colder and colder. And so one of these is on Earth, and it's actually what caused human evolution, kind of like in 2001. And different stories arise around this anchor stone and what it means for early humanity. So it's kind of like Clan of the Cave Bear in some ways, but it's also like 2001 in some ways. And I really liked some of the stories that were coming out of it, but I just didn't feel completely done. It felt sort of like fantasy, but with less, and I didn't like that. And so I cut an entire world out of the whole thing. And now that world is now sitting kind of over here, and I am not quite sure where it goes, but the more that I've been thinking about it, it's a very poetic world. It's before Conan's world, and there's a lot there that is very different because you don't have steel and plate mail and coins and some of the other real like underpinning pillars of fantasy aren't there yet. Mm-hmm. And I think it changes things in an interesting way. And exactly how they're interesting, I'm not quite sure yet. I don't know, but I know I want to write this world called Blood and Snow. It's just, what is it? I'm not quite sure. So
there's your scoop, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
you guys wanted to hear what's coming next. That's going to be out of the genius of what is Mr. Hankerin Ferinale.
But I feel like
from
there's
ICRPG.
something in prehistory that is terribly fascinating, because I think, especially considering modern discoveries and modern thinking, there's more there than we anticipated. We underestimated our ancestors, and I would like to think that we terribly underestimated them. That they actually paved the way for us to be here. And how did those adventures take place, and who did it, and how did they fall in love, and how did they live and die? And I would like to think about those stories.
That sounds cool.
I like imagining a world too where maybe about like 50 people, maybe more like 25 people in your entire world. And so, man, each person is just clutch. Like every single life is critical. And I love that thought, because life is so disposable in so many RPGs. And so to think that you've never even seen more than like 2-3 dozen people in your whole world, before you even reach the big wilderness that no one ever crosses, that's all you know. Those are your people.
Yeah,
something about that is very exciting to me. Almost like those are like hit points of your chance to even make it. You know, and if one of those hit points decrements, it does not come back. And that is a heavy concept. Like a tribe or a clan would have 25 hit points, which are people. And if blah 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 happens, then you're going to take 1d4 clan damage
permanently.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, it is on. Like, it gets serious.
I don't think in this day and age people educate themselves enough to sort of, and I'm not trying to say people are dumb, because it's just not what it is, but I just don't think people really grasp how much tribalism, even in 2018, affects us. Yeah. It creates racism, and it creates hate and all sorts of other things. And if you could just take the reverse of that, it also creates like the love and power behind these small tribal communities. Absolutely. Like, like my tribe is my family, and all of that. And like, you mess with my tribe, and if you could somehow relay that into a game, that would be actually pretty cool. And then throw in my
I
cool
honestly
ass.
think the world has developed at a faster speed than our social constructs have been able to adapt.
Yeah.
So I think we still think in those ways. We still know 50 people that we really care about, but it's really hard to care about 5 million people. I mean, not to be callous, but
no,
I don't have the mental tools to do it. I don't know how to. So I care about my 50 people, but I damn well care about them.
Yeah. Tribalism, man.
People
It's powerful.
People are a team.
All right, folks. I'm sorry we got to pull the plug on this deal, or we'd be here all night. Victor, take us out with a song and a dance.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know how we do this. You can reach us at the Murder Hobo Show at gmail.com, or you can catch us on Twitter if you can keep it under 140 characters at Murder Hobo Show, or of course over at the Google Plus page, Murder Hobo Show, under the Nerds International banner. Or you can reach out to myself or Gary at any time. Just look us up on the Google Plus, either the Savage Rifts page or of course the ICRPG community. We're always talking and yelling and screaming and putting our crazy posts and crazy faces up right there, along with Hankerin's crazy ideas.
Hankerin, pimp it, bro. What do you got?
I don't know. I got ICRPG.com. That's the main place to go check out what I do. Get on drive-thru, buy my stuff, because that would be cool. Then I can buy groceries. But more so, almost done with the third Runehammer novel. And oh man, a whole year of videos is coming because this chaos is about to subside, I hope, and get back on YouTube where I belong, designing styrofoam rooms for everybody to play, no matter what game you're playing. You don't have to play my damn game. Just be cool, drink booze, play D&D, roll dice.
Peace out, everybody. We're done. The Murder Hobo Show is not affiliated with or endorsed by any companies mentioned on this show. Any of the products mentioned on our show or appear on our website are the property and copyright of their respected owners. All items are used under fair use and educational review purposes. All other items are the intellectual property of the Murder Hobo Show, copyright 2017, all rights reserved.